Google Tag Manager in 1 hour. So what are we going to do in this particular set of course or chapters, whatever you want, you can call it. So what we are going to do is we are going to learn what Google Tag Manager is all about, how it works with Google Analytics 4, the latest version of Google Analytics. As you know, the Universal Analytics is going to be sunset by the next year. So Google Analytics 4 and Google Tag Manager, how it works, we are going to see that entire thing. We are also going to take a look at how Google Tag Manager helps in working with tags and tag management. So quite a few chapters, quite a few concepts, and quite a few techniques and tricks just in 1 hour. It is going to give you an overview and summary for you to get started as fast as possible. So let's get started. Alright guys, so in this chapter, let's spend some time in understanding what Google Tag Manager is. Okay, so I will take you back to the screen and you can see this website called gtm1hour.local. So we are going to use this website to show some demos, make some connections with GTM and everything else. Okay, gtm1hour.local, this is running on my desktop, not on the internet. All right, and then we have got this GA4 account that you can see over here. It has got a connection done to this website. I'll show you how I have done it. And you can see that there is some user activity happening over here. Okay, so if I open an incognito window and say gtm1hour.local, all right, and I go back over here, I should be seeing one user right over here. So there you go. We have one user showing up over here because I just logged into this website over here, right? And how did I get that connection done? I'll take you to the code. Okay, and this is a WordPress code. Okay, and inside WordPress, you have got all these WordPress files that are making this website called gtm1hour.local run. Okay, and inside this, you have got this file called header.php. So the way WordPress websites work is that this header.php file is attached to all the public files in your website. Okay, so all the public files will start with this particular set of code. Okay, it's a PHP code. And as per the technical norms, we have to copy the Google tracking code, GA4 tracking code, and then paste it inside all the pages of the websites and inside the head section, that is this head and this head inside here in all the pages, right? So if I paste it inside the header of PHP, because this page is attached to all the pages of my WordPress website, it will get the Google Analytics 4 site tag, or whatever tracking code you want to call it, will get copied to all the pages, and this is the tracking code. Yeah, this comes from my Google Analytics 4 account over here. If I go to admin, I can show you that place. You can go to data streams, click over here in the stream, and you will see that the tag is right over here. You have to copy it from here. You have to paste it over here and it starts making things run. But then this is a GTM course. Why am I talking about Google Analytics 4? The reason is GTM has got a lot to do with GA4, and this is the time we are going to learn about it. Now the challenge over here is that the entire Google Analytics 4 system works on something called events. Okay, events like page view events, which lead to firing of a page view and capturing of the data that we just saw inside the real-time reports. Okay, events are basically packets of information that you can send from your website to Google Analytics 4 account using some code. Okay, the challenge over here is that if you start writing code everywhere that has got APIs related to Google Analytics 4, more on that you can learn inside my other course that I have got running on YouTube as well. It's a free course, and you can also take it on Udemy. Look at my instructor profile and you'll find the course right over there. It's a 1 hour training on GA4. So you can look at over there to understand that how events work. Okay, they're basically some sort of information packets that you can send from your website to the Google Analytics 4 account. But then it is all about coding and writing, complex scripts and all those things, JavaScript and everything else, which makes things difficult at times because your website code and the Google Analytics code merge together, and it can cause maintenance issues. It can have issues in getting things checked in faster because your website is controlled by your developer. And if you are from the marketing team, you would want to have control on what Google Analytics configurations that you want to run, right? So there are quite a few problems for which GTM came in. GTM is a user interface where you can not write code, but you can do things simply by filling in information. Okay, the code is generated by Google Analytics GTM system, and using that you can fire custom events. You can do many sort of custom data collection that was not possible without coding inside your website or with plain vanilla GA4 as well. Plain vanilla GA4 does not allow too many configurations or customization. It does have a few things that are available out of the box. Again, you can check out the course, but then again, it doesn't entirely suffice what you're trying to do. So to do that, we are going to use GTM, and I'm assuming because you are looking at this chapter, you are to an extent aware of the Google Tag Manager and what exactly it is used for. But then we are going to go a bit deep and do a bit of hands-on to understand a little better. Now, this is how GTM works with Google Analytics 4, but GTM can work beyond Google Analytics 4, okay? It can work with other tag management requirements as well. For example, if you want to insert tags for, let's say, some custom tool, some third-party tool such as Hotjar, okay, very important tool for heat map tracking. Or you want to have some chat tool with a tagging enabled inside your system. So you can insert the tracking code of that chat tool in your website using the tag manager. It is for managing all sorts of tags. In fact, you can also do Google Ads tracking and all sorts of tracking that you want to do. Any kind of custom JavaScript injection you can do with Google Tag Manager. So that should be a good enough introduction to get started over here. All right, guys, so let's connect our tag manager back to the screen. And here I'm going to explain you how we are going to do that quickly. So let's say this is our website. Okay. And here we have our analytics. Okay, and website and analytics are currently connected. You saw that we are using the tracking code to do that. Now we also have our GTM over here. Okay, now the thing is how we have to connect to this and to this is the question. So to do that, first of all, we'll cut down over here. Okay, and then we'll make a connection. We'll use a tracking code from GTM to connect to the website. And then we are going to do some configuration inside GTM to make this particular connection. Okay, that's the idea. So first of all, we'll remove this. Make a connection over here, make a connection over here, and it will start working. Okay, so let's see how we can do that. We'll go back to our code over here. And first of all, I have told you that we'll remove this one. We don't need it anymore. Okay, and here I have got a GTM account running. All right, so here we have a GTM container. How do you create a GTM container? I'll tell you, or you can also say it's account. Okay, so go to the admin. First of all, you have to have a Google login ID. Okay, so once you log in over there, I'll show you what screen you are going to see. You're going to see this particular screen. You may not have so many containers or maybe no container over here. That's fine. But you will have create account over here. Let's click on that create account. You have to give some names over here. Give the container name. Choose web because we are working with web right now. Choose that and then create it. Okay. So once you create it, you'll see something like I'm going to show over here. Okay. Let me go to the one that I have created for this particular tutorial. That's the one. So once you create the GTM account, it will look like that. You will reach to this place. Okay. And over here on the top, you will get this tracking ID. Copy this from here. And the first tracking ID has to go inside in the head section or whatever environment you're working with. You have to do this for all the pages. Okay. So you have to copy it inside the head section, the first one, and the second one, you have to copy it from here and just inside the body after body open. Let's insert this as well. Okay. Now we have made the first connection. This one, GTM and the website, but this is still left. And we have also removed this connection. So right now, if you try to, give traffic to the website, send traffic to the website, you'll not see any data inside your Google Analytics account. Let's test that. So here is my real-time Google Analytics report. And I'm going to open a new incognito window. Okay, and I'm going to type in GTM1hour.local. So we have loaded, but you will see that no new user will show up over here. No new page load will also show up over here because the connection is currently not working. So we will have to make the connection between the GTM and GA account. So how do you do that? Right now, just follow the steps. I'll explain the logic later. Okay, so we'll go inside the tags. And then you have to click on new over here. Click on tag configuration and select the GA4 configuration. Obviously, because we are going to connect a GA4 account, select the GA4 configuration. You have got the universal analytics connection over here, but we are going to go with GA4. Measurement ID. Now this is where the connection will be made. The measurement ID is nothing but the analytics account's measurement ID. Okay, let's go to admin again and we'll go inside data streams. Select this one, copy measurement ID from here. If you click over here, it will get copied. Come here, paste it. Okay. You can also give it the name as tag -this. Okay. Rest of the things are fine. You do not need to do anything here, but in the trigger window, we'll click on the open area over here. Okay. Click anywhere over here. And this particular choose a trigger option comes up. We'll select all pages. Why? Because we want to have this tag configuration that is of this measurement ID in all the pages of the website, right? So let's select that. And once this is done, let's save it. All right. And now the second connection is made as well. So that's all. Finally, what we need to do is this, we have to check in into the system. Okay. Google Tag Manager has got a versioning system. Don't worry about that. For now, let's check in over here. Okay. We'll click on submit. I'll explain all these tag and trigger configurations as we move forward. Don't worry about that. Let's click on submit. Okay. You can give some name over here. Okay. I'll call it GA4 done. Let's publish it. All right. And you'll get a version over here. Let's come back to that later. But once this is done, okay, you have got one tag that has been permanently created in this particular account. Now, if you have to check whether our GA4 GTM configuration connection is done or not, all we need to do again, open an incognito window, say GTM 1 hour, GTM 1 hour.local. Let's open it. Now we should be able to see the traffic in real-time reports. And you will see that a new page load has happened, a new event, page view event has fired. And the user is basically the same user, so you may not be able to see it over here, but then you are able to see that the pages are getting fired now because our second connection is also done. So we did this connection by removing this one first. We did this connection by taking the tracking code and pasting it in all the pages. And then we also created a configuration tag. Again, I'll explain what tags and triggers are in much more detail. Don't worry about it. But we created this connection by creating a tag configuration, and then we submitted that part. Okay, the configuration that we did, we submitted that, and then we tested and it started working, right? So this is how you make the connection. Now, there are many questions that would come at this stage for you. For example, what was that tag and what is that trigger? And why are we submitting stuff? And how do you know that things are working? Is this the only way of testing it? Okay, there are many questions we need to answer. So let's, in the next chapter, try to get some theory behind this understood. All right, guys, back to the tag manager account. And over here, we are going to understand what is workspace, tags, triggers, variables, and so many things. Okay, so are you excited? Right, let's see. So first of all, let's understand tags, triggers, and variables. Okay, so tags and triggers. Now, tags and triggers are basically to define two kinds of actions. Okay, so the first action that is related to trigger is when do you want to do something, and tags define what is it exactly that you want to do. Does it seem confusing? Don't worry, we are going to talk about it. Let's get back to our whiteboard over here. Okay, and let's consider a situation. Let's say that your cousin or your son or whoever it is, a small kid, has gone to the school, right? And you have to pick the person from the school or pick the kid from the school, right? So here your school is there. You have a house over here at, let's say, 12 noon. The school will be over, the classes will be over. So you have to pick your son, let's say, from the school. Okay, so when do you have to do the job? At 12 noon. And what is exactly you have to do the job? Pick son, right? Similarly, let's say that you have given your car for servicing and it will come back on Tuesday 10 a.m. So when do you have to do the job? Tuesday 10 a.m. right? And what is it exactly you have to do? Car pickup, right? And every such thing that you have to do happens in when do you want to do it and what do you want to do format, isn't it? Similarly, consider a particular situation on your website. So if I go back to the website, what I want to do is that I want to measure how many times this add to cart buttons over here get clicked. Okay, so what do I want to do? I want to capture the clicks. And when I want to do it, when somebody clicks on that, right? I don't want to capture this data when somebody clicks on this open area. Or let's say somebody is viewing this page. No. I want to capture the data when somebody clicks on this add to cart, right? And what do I want to capture? That an add to cart has been clicked. I want to send an information piece to my Google Analytics account. So over here, tags will be used to capture the information of that add to cart. Okay, what button was clicked? That is what is captured over here. Triggers will be used to capture the moment when it has to be fired. For example, somebody clicked on this button. If the button is add to cart, then do what the tag says, right? That's the logic that we have to build. So inside GTM account, triggers will define when to do something. Tags will define what to do. So triggers will generally work with page loads. Let's say when page load happens, when a button gets clicked, when something is activated, or when a form is filled. All these things are taken care by inside the trigger. And tags will define what to do. Fire an event, set up Google Ads, or let's say set up Hotjar, or let's say capture some button clicks. All those things, right? All those things will be done inside tag. And then there is a third component called variables. Okay, so what is variables? Variables is the additional information that you would want to send along with your tags and triggers. For example, there are so many add to cart buttons over here. What if I have to send the name of the product for which the add to cart was clicked? Okay, this is our homepage, and inside homepage we have got this listing. So if somebody clicks on that add to cart button over here, here, and here, I want to also send the information of the product, that was the information about the product or the product name itself that was added to the cart. So that can become a variable, and we can store the information inside variable. I hope you get the logic, because this is going to drive your entire Google Tag Manager implementation. This is one of the most important chapters in this 1 hour's duration. So please understand it well. Okay, so these are the most important 3 things. Then you have got folders to arrange your tags and triggers. Not very important at this point of time. You have got a workspace. A workspace is a place where you do all your configurations. And then beyond this, above workspace, there is something called a container. So each container holds a set of tags and triggers. Okay, if you can create more than 1 containers inside an account, you can read more on that inside the GTM tutorial pages and the Google Help documents. I'll share the link with you somewhere in the description or in the resources. All right. So I hope you understand how things work. Now, to take it to the practical level, we are going to implement an event and learn how this can be done. So are you ready to do that? Let's try this out in the next chapter. Thank you. Welcome back, guys. And I'll take you back to the screen quickly. And we are going to try a very simple event. Okay, that will give you an idea of how things work behind the scenes. Okay. So now we have got this page called gtm1hour.local/shop. Okay, I clicked on shop, I entered over here, and there are these add to cart buttons. Okay, so what is our goal over here is when somebody clicks on this add to cart, we want to send information to Google Analytics account. Okay, that's the job. How do we do that? Now, as I said, we have to first of all see, you can have clicks happening all over here, right? People can click on any place. They can click on blog, checkout, or on this hello world text over here, and all those places, these images as well. Okay, but what we are interested in is this particular add to cart button, right? So how do we uniquely identify the add to cart button out of all the components on the screen, right? So if I right click over here, inspect, you see that there are so many components over here, right? All these li, ul, div, all these are HTML components, but we have to uniquely identify if it is one of these add to cart buttons, right? So how do we do that? Now, if I right click over here, click on inspect, you'll see that right now I'm highlighted on the add to cart button. Okay, and inside this, there is something called a class. Okay, and there are class names over here. There are multiple class names separated by space. Okay, I have seen that, students generally think that this entire thing is a class name. It is in a way, but all these are individual class components, and we can use just one of these class components as well. We don't have to use the entire string. So for example, there is this particular class component called product type simple add to cart button, right? That's the name. So we can actually select this entire thing. So for example, we have got this component that has got multiple class names. First is button, second is product type simple, then add to cart button. So let's use this add to cart button. Okay. So what we are going to do is, for all the clicks that have got a class add to cart button, hear this logic very carefully. For all the clicks that have got this class add to cart button, we are going to send add to cart button, clicked information to Google Analytics account. Now, I hope that makes sense, because it will get further clarified once we do that. So if you see that this particular component has got this class add to cart button. Now, if I open the second one, okay, you'll see there is the second add to cart button over here. It's getting highlighted, right? And it also has add to cart button class over here. And all these buttons have got this add to cart buttons. Okay. So if I am able to somehow capture that whenever some component on the screen gets clicked, which has got the class add to cart button, I should be, sure that it is an add to cart button. And at that point of time, we can send that information to Google Analytics account. That's all we need to do. Okay. Now, how do we do that in the Tag Manager account? I'll show that to you right away. Okay. Let's come back to Google Tag Manager. First of all, we have to create a trigger. Remember, when is the part of the trigger? And when do we have to execute this particular problem statement that we are talking about? When the add to cart button gets clicked, right? So you click on new over here, and we'll take care of that when. Click on this open area. And here you have got this option called all elements. Okay, because we are dealing with buttons and hyperlinks, and it could be anything, you will select all elements. If you are sure it's going to be hyperlink, you can select just links. Okay, I'll go with all elements. And then I don't want to do it on all clicks, right? Because I don't want to do it when somebody clicks on this open area. No, I don't want to capture that kind of event, only when the add to cart happens. So I'll go with some clicks. All right. And then I'll select a condition over here. So what I need to select is something when clicked has got a class add to cart button, right? So for that, we are going to use a inbuilt variable. There are options for inbuilt variables inside the Google Tag Manager account. So we'll select them, one of them at least. Let's see which one. Click classes, right? So whatever got clicked, this particular variable is going to return the classes of that clicked element. So in case it is, let's say this open area, if I right click over here and inspect, see it has got class hfeed and site. So I'll get a return over there for hfeed and site. So if I right click over here and inspect, so if I click on this add to cart button, I'll get a return over here that will consist of this entire string, okay, which has got multiple classes. So we are going to just be worrying about one of them. So I'll say click class contains, and let's copy the class name from here so that we don't make any typing mistake. I'll copy it right away over here, okay. And then I'll go inside the tag manager. I'll paste it. So I'm saying click class contains add to cart button. Only then please fire this particular trigger. Let's give it a name. Add to cart clicked, okay. Let's save it. And you see that the trigger is ready. Next, we have to send the information when that button gets clicked, right? So let's do that again. New, and then click on this. Now we are inside the tags, by the way. We'll click on this tag configuration and we'll select GA4 event over here. Okay, let's select that. Configuration tag, select the one that we had done for our Google Analytics account. So we'll select that. Now, if you try to correlate that what we did when we are setting up the Google Analytics 4 account inside the tag manager, we first of all created a tag configuration, okay, and then we selected it for all pages. So what happens when all the pages load? Please fire this particular configuration tag of Google Analytics 4. So that's exactly what's happening. We are actually, via the tag manager, we are pasting our tracking code to all the pages of our website, right? So I hope that you get the idea now. Now the configuration tag is done. Let's give an event name, add to cart, something like that, okay? Or you can just say add to cart, even that's fine. We'll go with add to cart clicked, okay? And then inside triggering, you know what we have to do? When the add to cart is clicked, right? Our custom trigger is showing up. Let's give a name, okay? Event add to cart, let's save it. And we have everything ready. Now we need to test if it is working or not. Well, we don't know, right? Maybe there is a mistake, maybe something is not working. How do you know? How do you test it? So to test that, we need to know a concept of previewing of tags and triggers, which is done by Tag Assistant. So very important concept. Let's learn it in the next chapter. I'll meet you in the next chapter. Thank you for watching. Back to the screen. And over here, you will see that we are in the Tag Manager account. And there is an option called preview over here. Let's click on preview. And this is how you test your entire setting. All right. And this box opens up. Over here in this box, you need to say http://gtm1hour.local. So whatever website you have, whatever website you are trying to test, and wherever your tracking ID has been set up, you have to use that same website's URL. Click on connect. Okay. And if you have done everything right, you'll see that the tag assistant connected is showing up over here. Let's go back to the page, continue. And over here, you'll see that the tag fired is showing us our configuration tag of GA4. Now, if you remember, we had configured it to fire on all the pages, right? So this page loaded, and along with this loaded, okay? And this is still in the test setting, right? So we are testing it right now. And whenever you are testing it, you'll see that this particular window opens over here with tagassistant.google.com as the URL, all right? And then you have got this website, which also opens along with it. Whatever URL you have provided over there, that website opens, and you are able to see now that the connection has been made, okay? And if you go to container loaded right over here, open this, you will see that all the details of the particular tag has been shown up over here, okay? One more thing that you need to know over here to make things better, clearer actually, is that all these events that you see on over here, these are not events related to Google Analytics 4. These are tag manager events specific to tag manager, okay? So whatever happens on the page, the tag manager also receives some sort of event along with it. First of all, there is these initialization events that happen, then the container loaded. So the browser goes through three kinds of load. First is the container load, then DOM gets loaded. DOM is basically the HTML that you see on the page, and then window loaded when everything is complete. So all these are events that are related to your Google Tag Manager, and these get fired automatically by Tag Manager based on what stage your browser is in, okay? So you'll see another example. If I click on this open area, you'll see that there is a click event that got fired, right? So Google Tag Manager does it automatically. You don't have to do anything about it, but you can latch onto these events to do what you have to do. Okay. For example, if I now add something to the cart, let's click over here. I'm adding the V-neck t-shirt to the cart. It's done. And you will see that if I go to the top level, the event add to cart is getting fired. Okay. And it's getting fired on this click, the second click that we did. So internally what happened is when we clicked on that button, there was a Google Tag Manager setting related event that got fired. Okay. That's shown over here. And remember that when we did our trigger configuration, we said that a particular element has to be, tracked. Okay. And then that element, whenever the click happens, the classes has to be equal to add to cart button, right? So on that click, we actually latched onto the click event, and then we created our own trigger over there. That trigger got fired. On the fire of that trigger, the tag itself got fired because our tags and triggers are configured together. You will see that the event name and how things actually happened in the triggers. So the event was GTM click because we are looking for the clicks. And secondly, we are also looking for that add to cart button if it is present or not in the classes. If it was present, you see a tick over here, contains add to cart button. So these two conditions matched over here. It got a green tick and the event also got fired. Okay. Now, importantly, if I go to my analytics account, you will see that the add to cart click event is also showing up. So it has been now moved to our analytics account as well. So our testing is complete over here. In the preview mode, there are some more options such as the variables. You can see the variables over here. Okay. So whenever that particular event got fired from the GTM, what was the state of the different kinds of variable that's currently present inside your GTM account? It's just showing you that there's something called data layer, some advanced stuff. We'll talk about the data layer in a bit. So you've got variables over here. You can also check out the variables. And once your testing is done, you can just close over here. Okay. Stop debugging and the browser page and everything is reset now. I'll go back to my Google Tag Manager and we have also done our testing over here. It seems it is working. So all we need to do is again, we have to submit it, right? Now you are also able to now map these steps to the GA4 configuration that you have done, right? Tags, triggers, submit. Now we also learned about preview. So you can also try previewing your GA4 configuration when you are working with it. Okay. So let's check this in. Add to cart, implemented, publish it. And your job is done. Now your add to cart event is permanent with the browser. So any user from anywhere in the world, if they go to your page, click on any of those add to cart buttons, it will get captured over here and you will be able to see the information inside your Google Analytics 4 account. You'll be able to see how many times those buttons got clicked. Okay. So with that, I think we have learned enough about previewing, about how to create a basic event structure and how does it work behind the scene. Now, one thing that we are missing is how variables work. So in the next chapter, let's learn about variables and how we can work with it inside our Google Tag Manager account. In this chapter, let's see a practical scenario of using variables along with events. So let's get started. Alright guys, so what are variables and how we can use it? We have discussed what variables are. Let's go back to the screen and we will go inside the variable screen. So you will see that there are two kinds of variables over here, built-in variables and user-defined variables. So we have already seen how built-in variables can be used. Remember the click classes that we had. So if you need more built-in variables, you can click on configure and you can select some of these. Okay. For example, click IDs and click elements, generally these are very important. I may just have them selected over here and kept ready if I want to use. So if you select them, you will see over here, they stack up over here, right? So some of these variables are automatically used by Tag Manager for their internal purposes and also for your use. They keep getting data to these variables. Okay. So you don't have to do anything over here. For example, for click classes, if there is a click on the screen, automatically the Google Tag Manager will fetch the information of click classes and then you can use it just like we saw. But then there are also these user-defined variables and we will see an example of how we can use this as well. Okay. So let's see how we can use it. Now, user-defined variables allow you to create custom kind of variables, not like these one. Okay. It can allow you to create even custom JavaScript variables or custom some sort of, let's say, fetching of some sort of data from the browser. All these things you can do using user-defined variables. We'll see one example over here. But before that, let's see the problem statement. Let's go back to our page. What we have done in this particular shop page right now is that whenever somebody clicks on add to cart, we send the information to Google Analytics 4, right? That's done. Now, what if I also want to send which particular products add to cart was clicked, right? So that's going to be a bit complex over here because we don't know how to do that, right? You can choose to do it this way, that whenever an add to cart button of Beanie gets clicked, you fire a different event saying that Beanie add to cart got clicked. Or whenever the belt add to cart gets clicked, you can send another event called belt add to cart clicked, and you will have so many events going, right? As many products, those many events. But you don't want that, because that will really create a lot of issues. Now there is a concept of capturing additional information along with events. Let me show that to you. And if you want to learn more about it, obviously you can go to my GA4 1-hour guide and check that out. You'll find it in YouTube or even in Udemy as a course. Whatever you want to take, you can take that. But then if you see that there are these events, right? So let's say I open one of these. Let's say I open the page view event. Okay, and you see there is something called event parameters. So along with events, you can send additional information, event parameters, that is in the form of name value or key value pairs. Okay, so this is key, this is the value. The GA session ID number is 7. Ignore referrer is something like this. Okay, page title is showing up over here, page referrer or something is showing up over here, and so on. Some information over here is showing up inside each event. Okay, so similarly, let's say in our add to cart clicked, if you open it, all these event parameters are there, right? But along with it, let's say I also send another information saying that product ID. Okay, the ID of all these products that are coming from WordPress. Actually, WordPress is creating those IDs, so it is already available. I'll show that to you. But let's say I'm able to send the IDs, okay, along with the parameters, and that also shows up over here. And then there's a way to actually save it inside Google Analytics 4 as well. So whenever you're looking at events, you will find the additional information inside those events. Okay, so let's say I go to the reports over here. Again, I'm giving you a quick overview. If you want a detailed one, you can check out the 1 hour on GA4. Okay, that will explain these things better. So this is the add to cart from one of my other accounts. All right, and over here you will see that I have got this page title over here, which is basically showing the product names as well. Okay, so all the add to cart buttons that were clicked on this account, that is probably 24,000 times in a particular period inside the Google Analytics 4 account. That's what we are seeing right now. You'll see that over here in this page title, it's showing the number of pages and which page led to that add to cart button click. All right, so this gives you an idea, additional idea about which of those pages are leading to more clicks, which of those products are leading to more clicks, and so on, right? So that's what is the goal for us as well. Now we'll use variables, custom variables, to achieve this particular target. Okay, that's the problem statement that I was trying to explain to you. Now let me right click over add to cart over here, and then this gets highlighted, right? So this button corresponds to this element, and inside this element you'll see that there is an option to get the product ID. Okay, that has been fed in already inside our HTML. So that says data-product_ID equal to 30. So if there was some way I can capture this data from our variables, I can actually send this data as event parameters within our event that we have created. All this may be seeming a bit confusing, but within a few minutes you'll be clear what I'm doing. Okay, so the first step is to actually fetch this data inside our Google Tag Manager account. Okay, that's the first step. Let's fetch that. So to do that, we'll create a new variable. Okay, and then again click on this empty space, and you can create so many kinds of variables over here. We'll talk about that shortly. But for this particular activity engagement, we are going to use the auto event variable. Let's click that. Now what auto event variable does is, it basically, whenever some item gets clicked, some action happens on some of the DOM elements, it captures all this information. Okay, so you can choose to select one of these information and then, save it for your own use. For example, it will help you capture the element URL. So if there is a click that has happened on a URL, it will help you capture the information from there. There are so many options over here. We cannot discuss all of them because of the paucity of time, but then we can definitely use element attribute over here. What does that mean? All these things that you see over here, right? Class, or let's say href, again, data product, SKU, data product, ID, all these are element attributes. Okay, element is A over here, and the attribute is these different kinds of data, quantity, class, and everything. Okay, these are attributes. So what is this element attribute auto event variable going to do for us? It will help us capture the attribute name that we want to capture. Okay, so in our case, it's going to be data-product_ID, and this particular attribute will be available in all the add to cart buttons. Okay, if you check that. So what we are going to do, we are going to paste it over here, data-product_ID. So whenever some element gets clicked on the screen, okay, this particular variable will try to figure out, is there an attribute known as data-product_ID? If it finds that attribute, it will capture the corresponding value. Right now for us, it is 30. So it's going to capture the 30 and save it so that we can pass that information along with the events. Okay. So I hope that at this point of time, you are getting a feel of how things are working. Okay. Let me give it a name. We'll call it product underscore ID. Okay, let's save it. And you have got this user defined variable. Next step is very simple. We'll go to the tags and we'll open this event add to cart. Click on this tag configuration. You see that there is an option called event parameters. Click add row. And in the parameter name, we are going to choose a name or a key. Okay, the name that we see over here. Let me show that to you. Okay, so if I clicked on this page view, all these are keys or names, right? So we have to decide one name, any custom name. You can keep it anything, cat, rat, mat, ABC, whatever is needed. But for having a good readability, we'll have a name that is something like product underscore ID. All right, and the value. Click on this particular bar, and you can see that the product ID is showing up over here. Okay, so we'll select that. And inside Google Tag Manager, any variable is shown in these double curly braces. Okay, just remember that. And actually that's it. So whenever now this event goes to the Google Analytics account, it will also carry this particular additional information. Okay, let's save it. And now we are going to test it. You can see the changes that have happened inside the Tag Manager account by going to the overview. And you see that these 4 things have been changed. Now these 2 I had just added for showing you how it works, but the real changes are in these 2. Okay, let's click on preview. And you'll see that the page has loaded, the connection has been made. Okay, we are going to do the same customary thing we did. Go to the shop page. Click on, let's say for hoodie with logo, we'll click on add to cart. And this is the particular click where that event again got fired. Now we are seeing that there is an additional information piece with the value as 33. So your experiment has worked. Let's see if the product ID is really 33 for this product. Okay. Yeah, you see that it's 33. And over here also in data product ID is 33. If I do another add to cart over here, I should see a different product ID. And the value is 34. So this seems to be working perfectly. If you have to test it inside the Google Tag Manager, first of all, you can test it over here. In the add to cart click, let's open this. And I can look for product ID right over there. And you see 30, 33, 34, and all these are showing up. It is capturing the data, but there is another way in which you can test it inside GA4 account. So let's do a check-in over here. First of all, let's complete that. Let's close this particular thing, stop debugging. And over here, we'll check in all these things, submit. Product ID captured, click on publish. Now you have learned how variables work, right? But one final thing that I want to close in this particular part before we move forward is to show you another way of testing the same thing inside or it is also the better way to test it inside our Google Analytics 4 account. That is known as Debug View. So in this next chapter, we'll cover Debug View quickly before moving forward. All right, guys, so let's go inside the Debug View. Go to Configure inside your Google Analytics 4 account. Go to Debug View. And you will see that the Google Tag Manager 4 add to cart that we are firing in the preview mode is showing up over here as well. And you can click over here and you will see that inside the parameters, you have got this product ID as well. And in the previous step when we had fired it, you will see that over here as well, there is add to cart click and the product ID. It is showing up over here in terms of data as well. So if you are testing in a professional environment where you have to deliver something to a client, first of all, you do the testing inside your preview mode, then come to the Debug View. And Debug View over here will only work when you are in the preview mode. It's in the debug mode. Okay. So you have to come over here when you are in the debug mode, and you have to also test if the data is getting received inside the Google Analytics 4 account or not. Okay. And this is where you can do it to make sure that your Debug View is working whenever you are going for a preview mode. Okay. Let me go back to the workspace and share that with you. Click on preview mode over here. You see that there is an option called include debug signal in the URL. So you have to keep that checked. Okay. And if you click on connect from here, you see there is an option called GTM debug that has got started, right? So that's the whole idea. Once you have started in the debug mode, you'll be able to see this particular report inside the analytics as well. And all the actions that you make on the tag manager side should also be captured over here. Only then you will be sure whether your entire thing is working or not. Okay. So that completes the Debug View exercise. Let's move to the next chapter. In this chapter, let's learn about the custom definitions and how it links to the events inside the tag manager. So let's get started. All right, guys, welcome back, and let's quickly go to the screen. And if you remember, I had shown you these examples of event parameters, right? Inside events where you can see more granular data related to the additional information that you want. One example over here is that of the page title. So this is something, if you require this, just by configuring the event parameter inside Tag Manager, it is not going to suffice for you. Okay. because in GA4 you have to also configure something known as custom definitions. This is also something that comes from universal analytics, but over here things have changed a bit. Let's see how to configure that. Okay, I'll go back to my GTM 1 hour account, and here, if you remember, we have this event that we had created. Okay, and there was a parameter with this event called product ID that we had passed along with it. We are going to actually configure the same parameter. So how we can do that is we have to go to the custom definitions, and then you have to click on create custom dimensions, or if you want to create a metric, you have to click on create custom metrics. Custom dimensions are the, let's say, the rows and columns of a particular table, if you are thinking of it like that. Okay, for example, if you have got, let's say, 5 students in the class and there are 5 subjects, okay, the students and subjects define the dimensions, right? The dimensions against which you can have some data, and the data of the marks, those marks are custom metrics. So you have to be careful. If you are trying to configure a custom dimension, it has to be corresponding to certain kind of a text data or something like that. Okay, and metrics are always numerical data, number data that shows up as the value of a certain as a value of a certain custom dimension. Okay, so in our case, product ID is a custom dimension, right? So we are going to use it as such. We are going to click on create custom dimensions. All right, and let's give it a name, product ID. All right, scope will be event over here. You can give some description to help others understand what this current dimension is all about. And in event parameter, you can type in product underscore ID. Okay, this is the same as what we had configured in the other side. All right, so once you have we have done this, you have to save it, and that should be enough for your data collection to start and show up in Google Analytics 4. Okay, what does that mean? Now, so if somebody does an add to cart, the event parameter along with add to cart is sent by website to Google Analytics 4, and Google Analytics 4 actually saves that data inside this custom dimension called product ID. I hope this was helpful. So with that, we'll close this chapter on custom definitions. You know what to do. Okay, and we'll move to the next chapter. Thank you. Until this point of time, whatever we have discussed related to Google Tag Manager has been mostly towards the Google Analytics 4 account. But as I have told you before, Tag Manager can be used for not just Google Analytics 4 tagging, but any kind of tagging that may be needed in your system. So it could be a tracking code from any third-party software as well. Let's see one example of how we can do it in this chapter. Let's get started. All right, guys, so back to the screen, and I am inside a portal. Let me zoom it in. I'm inside a portal that is known as Sales IQ. Okay, Sales IQ is a tool by Zoho that helps you set up chatbot on your website, or even chat tool where salespeople can take calls or chats from the other side, from customer side, and then they can, generate business over there. Very good tool. I have used it before, so I recommend it to you. But then over here, we are learning how to install this kind of tool using Google Tag Manager. Okay, so to install this tool, you will see that it has got a similar kind of a script that we have seen in Google Analytics 4. So these are something that are known as tags or tracking code, or there are multiple names, pixels, and sometimes and so on. Okay, so the idea is that you have to copy this particular script. It has got some JavaScript code. You can go ahead, and if you are used to JavaScript, you'll be able to understand what's happening over here. So you have to copy this code, and you have to paste it in all the pages. Generally, the recommendation over here is to paste it in before the body tag closes, but we can try it some other ways as well. It is not necessary to be like this, but it's the recommended way. Okay, so how we can do this using the Google Tag Manager? Let's see. I'll go back to my tag manager over here. Okay, and we have to create a new tag. Now, the idea over here is that script should be, fired across all the page loads on the website wherever you want chat, right? So remember that all pages thing that we had learned when we are doing the GA4 configuration. We'll use the same technique over here. We'll take the triggering and select all pages. Logic is pretty simple, all pages, right? But in the tag configuration, you don't have anything like Zoho Sales IQ tag configuration, right? You don't have over here. These are all Google Analytics related, and then there are some Google Ads related and so on. But there is one tag configuration that is generic and that can be used for many different purposes. That is known as custom HTML. Okay, what does this do? Now, custom HTML injects HTML script, HTML code, HTML DOM elements to any part of the website or any page of the website that you wish it to be inserted into. Okay, so if I select this, let's see what happens. So there is a box that opens, right? And the box says that you can type in HTML over here. Okay, but if you have to type in JavaScript, all you have to do is you have to put stuff in script Okay, and then you have to again close this. So once you have this format, you can paste in any JavaScript code inside this, and whatever is the trigger configuration, based on that, it will actually insert or inject this particular script inside the web page. Okay, that's the idea. Now, if you see, now let's paste our code from the sales IQ, and I'll paste it here, and it already has this scripts open and close, so we don't need this one. Okay. Now, once we do that, we are saying that whenever a page loads, please also insert or inject this script inside that page, right? That's the idea. And we can give this name over here, sales IQ. All right, let's save it. And you have got this sales IQ over here. Let's test it. How can we test it? We'll go to the preview. And we'll click on connect. Now remember, for this purpose, we don't have to go inside the Google Analytics account, but because this is not related to Google Analytics, right? This is related to a different third-party software, Sales IQ, and therefore what we have to test is in the browser if you have this chat box over here or not. Okay, so you see that the chat box is right over here. Since it is in the preview mode, if I open my website, gtm1hour.local, in an incognito window somewhere, you will not see the chat box, right? Something important to note, because we are right now in the preview and testing mode, we are only able to see it over here, and you see that the chat box has been added over there. Good news, this is how it works. Okay, this chat box will be added because we have got this particular tag that's firing on all the pages. You see, so that's how you can also deal with any third-party software that has got similar kind of injection tech that has been used. Okay, let's see another example. We can go to Hotjar. It's a very popular heat mapping tool, if you know that. I'll sign in over here. So once I'm signed in inside Hotjar, again, I have got this code, and you will see that it's a similar kind of script that we need to inject to all the pages where we want to measure the heat map. So all I do is I copy it from here. And again, I do the same drill. I create a new tag. I install the CHTML kind of tag over there, paste my code, fire it or trigger it on all the pages, save it, and that's about it. Okay. So you get the idea of how things work inside the tag manager in terms of when it is outside Google Analytics, right? So let's quickly submit this code. You can give a description over here if you want to. I'll just continue over here because this is a test account. I don't use it for some website tracking. Let's save it. And this has been permanently inserted. If I open 1 hour gtm1hour.local, you'll see that the tool is showing up permanently now, and we can use it to our benefit. So with that, I'll close this chapter and I'll meet you in the next one. Take care and thank you for watching. Let's take a few minutes to understand what else can you do with the Google Tag Manager, right? So back to the screen, and I will first of all share with you the variables that we can use. All right, because this is one of the most important parts in Google Tag Manager. We have to understand what variables are, and how different kinds of users of variables can we figure out. Okay, so you have already seen built-in variables. Let me open configure over here, and you'll see that I'll leave this part for now. I'll come back to that later. All these parts. This is important. You can use all different kinds of variables over here. For example, click element is already selected. You have got click classes. We have seen an example. Click text, right? So let's say you clicked on something on the website and you want the text of that information to be available inside Google Analytics for understanding the data. Maybe it's the text of the button, maybe. So in that case, you can use this variable click text, and this automatically works inside Google Tag Manager. You don't have to do any configuration for that. It has got the ways to fetch the data from click text very easily. Okay, there are other form elements that you can use. So if you're tracking a form submission or some sort of form ID that you want to check before doing the submission, you've got this option called form ID or form classes and so on, form URL as well. Okay, so what it does is, let's say you want to see whether the form being submitted has a particular ID or not, and based on that you want to send information to Google Analytics that a particular form was submitted. You can test it by form ID. You can put that filter saying form ID equals to or contains some form XYZ or something like that, and then move ahead. You've got this history related stuff. This comes in very useful when you're doing or dealing with single page applications, right? And then we have got videos as well. If you are dealing with videos, you want to see what is the video title, you want to capture that information, or based on that video title information, you want to send some data to Google Analytics. All these variables can be very useful. Again, as I said, these are all inbuilt inside GTM. You can just import it like this, select it, and then you can start using it. Okay. Then there is scroll tracking as well. Okay, this was very useful in universal analytics, but in this current analytics also you can use it. If your automated scroll tracking, there is one available inside the GA4. You can check that out in enhanced measurements. Always Google it and find out what it is, or you can take my course as well. So once you have looked through the enhanced measurement, you will find there is an option called scroll tracking. It automatically tracks the scroll of users across pages. Okay, but in a limited way. So if you want to again expand it, there is these options. Do check it out. And then again, visibility. So element visibility is something that comes in handy when you're not dependent on user action, but some change on the page. Okay, so in that case, you can use this % visible and on-screen duration and some kind of a variable. So all these are available for you out of the box, but then there are also user-defined variables. We'll take a look at a few of them. Okay, so let me click over here and see so many kinds of variables are available with us for use. Okay, so some of the common ones that generally all Google Tag Manager implementers use, one of these is custom JavaScript. Inside this, you can write custom JavaScript functions and ways to return variables or compute something from the page, right? All those things you can do inside JavaScript. Anything that you want to do inside JavaScript, you can do it here. But remember that this fires not based on your calls. Okay, you cannot call one method or one function from another function, just like you can do in a normal JavaScript operation. Over here, it fires on its own accord. Okay, and at that point of time, if the firing has some data available, it will actually set the data in this variable. Okay, so you always have to return something in these kind of functions. Okay, because the return value is only set in the variable that you have defined, and only then you can use these kind of variables. All right, then you have got data layer variable. We'll talk about data layer in a bit, don't worry about that. Okay, JavaScript variable. So if you have a JavaScript variable inside your pages, on some page you have use some JavaScript variable to define something, and you want to have that access to that variable right over here. Now remember, this is different from custom JavaScript, because custom JavaScript, you can write a set of lines of code and return some value from there inside a function. But over here, it has to be a one single variable that you can return. Okay, you can't write a set of code to do that. All right, and then these are like auto event variable, DOM element, and element visibility. These three are used to fetch data from the page. Okay, remember that we had that product ID data, and we used this auto event variable. So similarly, DOM element helps you fetch data from the page, from any DOM element that you want. It doesn't have to depend on some click that is happening. And then there is also element visibility. Whenever some element becomes visible and you want to do some action based on that element visibility, you can use this variable to do so. Okay, and then there are some lookup table, regex table, and some very advanced kind of variables that you have access over there. I'll share the link of where you can find information on these. Please go ahead and check it out. They're pretty easy to understand. And if you really need help, you have always got my larger, longer courses, because these are topics that have to be discussed in a lot of detail. I cannot do it in 1 hour. This is to just get you started with Google Tag Manager. And if you find it interesting, if you find it worth, then obviously you have to learn more. And there are long format courses for that. All right. So with that, I have discussed about variables. Let's see what triggers are available for your use. Okay. So again, we'll go and click on new. Click on this empty area and you see all the options of triggers. The most common ones are obviously all elements and just links. These are, and we have seen one example as well. You can use triggering for DOM ready and window loaded. So whenever window loaded fires, and it fires on all the page loads. And if you want to, let's say, fire some tag based on the window loaded trigger, then obviously you have to use this. Similar is for DOM ready. These are different stages of a page load on a browser, right? And then you have got some common options such as element visibility. So if you want to do some action based on some element being visible, obviously you have to fire this trigger. Form submission, again for form submissions, as the name suggests. And then you have got YouTube video, scroll tracking. Custom event is very important. Again, you just like we had events for let's say DOM ready or Windows loaded or clicks that we had seen in the Tag Manager preview mode, if you remember, right? So these are all events inside Tag Manager that are fired by the Tag Manager. Okay, you don't have to do anything, but then you can also fire custom events that you name and you fire at a certain point in time when you need it to be fired, right? In such cases, you can use the custom event trigger and you can name the same event that you fired on your browser. Over here, you can use scroll depth for, tracking scrolls on the page, and YouTube videos for tracking actions on videos, and so on. Okay, so there are quite a few over here for triggering as well. Then you can go to tags, and let's see a couple of tags as well. Now we have seen, I think 2 tags we have seen already, or 3 maybe, the GA4 configuration, GA4 event, and the custom HTML ones, but there are some others as well. For example, if you want to do Google ads tracking, you have got these options over here, remarketing ones and the ad conversion tracking and conversion linker is also for Google Ads actually. And then there are some third-party tags as well. See, when we use the Hotjar or when we use the Sales IQ tags, right? We use the custom HTML way of doing it, but you can also use these options. Okay, so if you have a, let's say, third-party code like for Hotjar, so you can select Hotjar over here, given the Hotjar site ID, and the rest of the tracking code is generated automatically with the by the tag. And in the trigger, you have to obviously select all pages and then save it, and it will start working. So if you have third-party tags available inside your Google Tag Manager, like the Hotjar, you can either use this or you can also use custom HTML. It's up to you. The results will be same, but third-party tags are updated regularly. So if they're available, maybe you can use that as well. Okay. So that's an example of a tag, and you've got a list of third-party tags, right? There is an option over here that's of templates, in which you can create your own tag templates and variable templates, okay, which will define the type of tags. For example, let's say you have got your own software, okay, which runs on similar tagging system. So you can come over here, create a tag for that software, have it for free over here inside the tag manager so that other users can use it and get benefit out of it. You can also create systems for logically sending data to Google Analytics that is sort of a template that other users can use to do their operations without getting into coding and all those things, okay, not reinventing the wheel. But again, as I have said, guys, these are pretty complicated tools to use. They're not simple. So if you want to learn it, obviously you can have a course, long format course that you can use. And I also do some similar courses. I'll share the details at the end of this particular course or this particular 1 hour conversation that we are having right now. All right. Then you've got this option for folders where you can save stuff. Let's say you've got these triggers and tags. So you can select all of them, and then you can click on the folder for selected, and then you can give a name to the folder. You can say folder 1 or something like that, and then click on create. Okay, and then this organizes your stuff. So it's happening right now. You see that now it has organized your triggers and tags in one particular folder. So if you want to keep your stuff organized, maybe this is the option that you can use. All right, so I think we have discussed quite a lot about this interface. Let's take a very brief look of what is a data layer and how we can use it with the tag manager. So let's get started. All right, guys, back to the screen, and you will see that I'm inside the header.php file where we had inserted the Google Tag Manager code. And inside this file, you will see that there is that script that we had. Okay, and inside the script, there is an option called data layer over here. Okay, what is this option exactly? Now, data layer is an information gathering system, if you may. Okay, it is very similar to JavaScript's array. It's basically a JavaScript array. So inside this JavaScript array, you can push information in form of name value pairs. Okay, and once you push that information gets available inside the data layer, and we can use a data layer variable to fetch that information inside the Google Tag Manager. Okay, for example, if I want to, let's say, send some information, maybe inside the body, or let's say I go over here below header, I open script over here. Okay, and inside this script, I say data layer dot push. Okay, and I'm going to pass in a name value pair over here. I am going to say, let's say value equal to 5. Okay, so that's it. Value is 5. Let's go back to our Google Tag Manager account, and if I click on preview over here, click on connect, right click, inspect, console, data layer, and if I open this data layer over here, you'll see that I have got access to value equal to 5 because I inserted it over there. Now I can use this value for doing some sort of data collection or firing some trigger and all those things using data layer. Okay, now I can use it to do some sort of activity or operation. If I go inside Google Tag or Google Tag Assistant, and if I open this particular data layer over here, you'll see that the value equal to 5 is available over here, right? And if you remember, we had seen that custom variable, right? Let me go to that variable. If I click on new, open area, I'll click over here, and then I can use this data layer variable, and I can give the name as value and then just save it. Okay. And if I want, I can use this data layer variable to fetch the value 5 and take decisions based on that, or maybe send that value 5 to Google Analytics account by using the techniques that we have already seen. So that's how data layer can be used in our environment. Okay, I just wanted to give a quick overview. So your entire enhanced e-commerce system inside Google Analytics 4, if you have used Google Analytics 4 or even Universal Analytics, has a lot to do with data layer as well, because the information passing from the website to the Google Analytics happens via the data layer. Okay, so that was a brief summary of how you can use data layer. Let's move forward. Let's learn about the admin settings inside Google Tag Manager. Back to the screen, guys, and over here I am going inside the admin, and you have got this admin settings over here. The first is the account settings. Very few things over there. In each account you can create multiple containers. This is very similar to Google Analytics 4, where you can create multiple properties inside one account. Similarly, you can create multiple containers. So maybe you are using one container each for one website property that you have, or one subdomain, and so on. So that's the reason you have these multiple containers. Okay, inside containers, you have got these options for creating environments. So what are environments? Environments are used for, let's say you have got a live account and a testing account, right? You want to make your changes of GTM go into a testing account where you test it properly, and then you decide to move it to the live account, right? In such cases, you can use environments. So if you go inside environments, you have options for live and latest that come up as soon as you create the container. These are by default, but you can also go to new and create another one. So you can say testing. You can have testing, staging, and so on. All right, so publish to testing. Okay, so you can, once you publish one of these containers to testing, your testing will be ready. So basically the testing container will have all the versions that are in the live or latest, or maybe one before that. Okay, and then you can go to admin settings over here. You can go to environments. Okay, click on actions, and then you have to get snippet. So you copy the snippet and put it in your testing website environment. Okay, and then once you do a check-in, so when can you make that decision when to put it in testing or put the changes inside live? You click on submit over here. You have got this option called live. You can move it to testing and it will start working, right? So that's how you use environments. And then you have got options for container import and export. So if you have some other place where you have a container where there are some tags and triggers configured, you want to bring it to these containers, you can use these settings. There are options for adding users and so on. So all these options are available inside the tag manager. You can take a look at it and you should be able to do it. All right. So with that, I think we have gone through quite a lot of information about the tag manager. I hope that you are gaining a lot out of it. So if that is the case, then it's time to discuss what is the way forward from here and how to gain mastery in Google Tag Manager. Let's talk about it. All right, guys. So let's summarize what we have learned at this point of time. We have learned how a Tag Manager account is set up, it is structured, how it is connected to Google Analytics 4 account, and how it is connected to the third-party accounts or other systems that have got a tagging mechanism for them to run on a website. We have learned all of this. We have also learned how to create an event inside Google Tag Manager and send data to Google Analytics 4 account and then do your analytics based on the collected data, right? And then we have seen the different kinds of options that are available inside Google Tag Manager in a short detail. At this point of time, let me also explain that this is just the start. Okay, while you have learned quite a few things in this quick 1 hour, but Google Tag Manager has a lot of stuff that you can learn, and all those options that we saw, remember, and I told you that these are not very simple things to do. You have to learn it by doing hands-on. So I have a course that explains all the different kind of variables, all the different kind of tags and triggers. We do hands-on on all these using a custom project that I and you will install together over there and then learn along with it. Okay, we also try out templates, how to create templates. We see examples and we do it ourselves. Okay, we create our templates ourselves. We actually set up environments and see how it differs between testing and live and all those things, right? So a very expanded, a very thoroughly hands-on version of Google Tag Manager that I had given a short intro to you for you to get started, you'll find in these courses. The links will be available in the description or in the resources. Okay, look over there and you should be able to find it. And then if you also want to learn about the advanced setup of Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics 4, then I have another course for you that is 16 hours long, and it explains in detail how you can set up advanced Google Analytics 4, including e-commerce tracking using a Google Tag Manager account. Okay, we learn custom JavaScript coding and coding JavaScript inside your website and so on and so forth. So many things are there in this particular course. I have also got other courses on Google Analytics 4 and some other topics such as Google Analytics 4 for mobile application. You can also check that out. in my Udemy instructor profile. So it's time we close this course, and I hope that you have enjoyed it. I hope that you have liked this last 1 hour that you have spent with me. So I'll meet you in some other place, in some other video maybe. Thank you till then.